iPhone SE iOS 11 Beta 1 review. That's coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to the iPhone SE iOS 11 Beta 1 review. Now, many of you have requested the iOS 11 Beta 1, and here it is. We do have 1.82 gigabytes on this download here, and we are on 10.3.2, the official. So let me go ahead and show you the storage on the iPhone SE before we go ahead and do this update. So you can see right here, I do have available 4.1 gigs. You can tell this is an official release because there's no A after the 14F89 here. So what I'm going to do is simply go ahead and download and install this, and then we're going to talk more about it. So I'm going to go into settings, go into software update, and I'm going to go ahead and download this really quick, and I will be right back once it is done installing. Alright guys, so the iPhone SE is now on iOS 11, the first edition. So if I go into here, you can see right away there is a different lock screen in terms of the shades behind the numbers. So the numbers are a little bit different here in iOS 11. Now this is totally up to you whether you like this or not. I personally think it looks a little bit more modern here, and it's a nice touch if you ask me. So here we are. It does say welcome to iPhone here on the iPhone SE, and here it goes. You can see right here iOS 11 is installed, and I'm already seeing some lag and chop already. Now this is the first edition, so it is going to be pretty slow, but it definitely feels much better here so far just on those first few scrolls than the iPhone 5S. Now you're watching this video live. This is the first time I'm testing the iPhone SE live on camera with you guys right now here, but here's one of the most controversial yet loved features of iOS 11, and that is the new control center here for the iPhone SE. So it does bring 3D touch like features in this little option right here where you can go ahead and change things, and it basically, instead of having two pages, it brings everything right here front and center on the control center, and these volume sliders right here as well as brightness sliders, kind of like a little remote control similar to what you'll see on like an IR blaster application for Android. I kind of like it with a little bit more modern take on it. Now let's see if the flash does work here on iOS 11. It does. The clock works as well, so you can still do the main functions that you're used to doing on iOS 10 here on iOS 11 Beta 1. So taking a look at the notifications tray, it's going to be a little bit confusing at first because it looks exactly like the lock screen. So your notification tray is essentially the same look and feel as the lock screen here on your iPhone SE, which was a little bit confusing to me at first, but hey, it's pretty cool now to see that it's kind of more in sync. Some people might like this, again, liking to see their shade and their invisible background. It kind of shows the applications behind it in the previous iOS 10, but you know what, this is a cleaner look in my personal opinion here for iOS 11 on your iPhone SE. So taking a closer look at the wallpapers, you can see that there's only one included wallpaper here, and some subscriber mentioned, well, you can get wallpapers all over the entire internet, so who cares how many wallpapers there are? But I kind of do care because I like to have things built right into my operating system that doesn't require an extra step. So I do like the fact that we do have a new wallpaper here. Maybe we'll see more as more releases come out, but for now, this is the included wallpaper with iOS 11. So now that we went ahead and updated to iOS 11 on the iPhone SE, let's go and see if we gained any storage here for the iPhone SE. Remember, we had 4.1 gigabytes before we went ahead and did this update. So I'm gonna go to About Device here and scroll down, and you can see we did go down to 3.34. So we actually lost space on this update for the iPhone SE. So keep that in mind if you are gonna be updating to the Beta 1. I do not recommend you update to this, but if you are, keep that in mind. You are gonna lose some storage space here. So the iPhone SE also gives you the redesigned calculator. Once again, we've seen this in my other videos if you watched them. If you haven't, this is the new calculator design here. Still no history, which is like, come on, really? No history still on a calculator? That's a very useful feature. And you're gonna see bold type font faces throughout the entire operating system of iOS. You can see the calendars are now a little bit bolded here. Right there, it kind of looks a lot like what they did in Apple Music here, and that's a similar theming that's going across the board here in the new operating system iOS 11 here. Also, I noticed that there is no text at the bottom of the dock here for your iPhone SE, so no more text under the icons. It's a cleaner look if you ask me, similar to a jailbroken iPhone. Going up to the top, we will see that we do have a different battery icon. I don't have a SIM in here, but there's also different signal bars as some people have pointed out earlier this week here. But overall, the performance is looking pretty solid here on the iPhone SE. Not at all that laggy, honestly, for the first beta. I'm pretty shocked here at how well this is performing. This is a good sign for iPhone SE users who are going to be updating to the public release of Beta 1. So you can see even in messages here, you do get that big bold type font face, as if Apple doesn't know if you know that you're in your messages app. Well, it's letting you know here with that big bold type font face now in the messages application. Speaking of the messages application, as mentioned in my iOS 11 beta 1 release video, there is new sticker packs now for the iPhone SE at the bottom. You can see it does relate to your application, so the more the developers hop on board with this, the better it's going to get. Also, there will be an Apple Pay function in here where you'll be able to pay people person to person, which essentially allows you to easily pay without having to use services like PayPal. You can just use Apple Pay, which is going to be a nice feature for those of you who do use the Apple Pay setup. So one feature we cannot forget about is the new application store, and you can see I do have about 52 updates, so I'm a little bit behind on my updates on my iPhone SE apps, but you can see it's very different here, and it's actually quite enjoyable on a foreign screen due to the fact that the cards are now bigger, so it makes for an easier viewing experience, especially on these smaller screens where you don't have such an expansive view like on the 5.5-inch iPhones. Scrolling through, you can see we do have a Today view, which is going to give you suggested new applications and stuff like that, kind of like the front page of the App Store now. And over here you do have Games tab, you also have your Apps tab, and you do have your Updates tab as well as Search. So it's like, again, bold type font faces. It's really a nice thing for these smaller screens if you ask me. And the animations in iOS 11 are new as well. So taking a look at the animations here, let's go into some basic apps here. You can see they do kind of fly in. Pretty cool stuff. And since we're in the weather there's also a change in the weather. The weather icons are now bigger. You know, this again is better for smaller phones if you ask me. It does have bigger to read text down here for the iPhone SE, so this is totally going to be up to you whether you like these kind of things, but just know that iOS is getting a little bit bigger in the way that the fonts out of the box at least look on the stock version here. So going in the settings, you can see the lights fly animation there. Going in the calendar, it's going to be pretty in sync. Right now they're a little bit slow, the animations, but I'm sure they'll get faster over time. So taking a look at the dialer on the iPhone SE, we see a very continuous look to the passcode on the iPhone SE. So definitely a shaded background, definitely a difference here. And I'm not going to go into my favorites here or recents, but they do have a bold type font face at the top here on the iPhone SE as well. So that's very similar to Apple Music. So Apple Music for your iPhone SE also sees some changes, not necessarily in the looks department, but it does see changes when it comes to the feature set. So now you can share a playlist with friends, just like in real life. If you were like, hey, I learned about this new song, now you can share that with your friends straight from your iPhone, which is pretty cool if you ask me. That's going to really depend on if you have two people using the Apple Music service. A lot of people do use Spotify, so this feature is not going to be for everyone, but it's a nice thing nonetheless if you do use it. So the settings app doesn't see much change here in the iPhone SE, but going into general, I did notice one thing. The Siri and search icon is now different here, as well as a couple of these, the Touch and ID and passcode, the emerging SOS. The visual layout of these little icons right here do just look a little bit different in my personal opinion. I'll have to compare them to iOS 10 to see how much different they are, but the whole thing has just basically been cleaned up, and this is more of a refinement OS rather than an OS that just totally changes the game for Apple here. So you see that icon right there? It says Files, and yes, that Files application that's coming to the iPad is also coming to the iPhone SE. And the iPhone SE really kind of needs this because they just released a 128GB model of this, and it's going to be really nice to manage files on such a big storage, small iPhone. Going back in the recents here, you can see it's not appearing right now. A little bit buggy, but it should show the recent locations and stuff like that. But it's going to be a really nice touch, and it's very similar to the Files look that you see on the Mac, the blue folders and stuff like that. So it's going to be a nice touch here for your Apple iPhone SE. So within Maps, you are going to get a little bit of a change here as well. You can now view directories and maps inside malls, so shopping centers, as well as airports. So finding your terminal and stuff right in the Apple Maps application. This is a really nice handy feature, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. So that's going to be pretty great here nonetheless for the Apple iPhone SE and well as other iPhones on iOS 11. So also included in this update is the dark mode, and I made a video yesterday how to enable this for your iPhone 5S, SE, 6, whatever phone is running iOS 11 as well as iPads here. You just go ahead and triple click the home button. It's found within the accessibility shortcut, but this does bring a difference because it doesn't invert the entire screen, just inverts the settings application as well as the calendar and some other system-based applications within iOS. The weather does turn orange, so it's a little bit looking like Mars right there, but hey, it's up to you whether you want to use this feature or not, but I would say that it's a pretty cool feature to have here. And they also do have the included old classic invert colors if you want to do that as well. So just becoming a little bit more feature rich here in iOS 11 Beta 1. So one thing we still can't do on this SE is we can't move our applications wherever we would like on the screen. They still bounce back up, which I don't think many people are going to be upset about, but I kind of really wish we could just put applications wherever we want here right on our smartphone. So you still can't do that in iOS 11. Also, there's new visual changes to the Siri when you talk to it, so you can say, "Hello, how are you doing today?" So you can see right there, it does show that new icon right there. So that's the new icon, and it will translate to new languages, as I was saying. That's a new feature as well. It's funny that it said that right in this video, because that's a new feature as well. It's very similar to the Google Translate, but now included within Siri. Also, Siri's voice is updated to sound a little bit more natural. Alright guys, so what about the performance? I'm not going to do a full-on test here. We are going to do that later this weekend, so subscribe to the channel to see that. But it actually is running pretty well here for the iPhone SE. I'm not going to say great, but it's not as slow as the iPhone 5S was, and not as choppy as it was on my iPhone 6s Plus. So best running phone so far for me on iOS 11, surprisingly, here on the smaller SE. So definitely I think it's worth a try. I still don't recommend you guys go ahead and download it. Remember, you are going to lose space, and you are going to get a lot of bugs here with third-party applications, as well as some system-based stuff. There's going to be some chop here on the SE, but overall it runs smooth enough to give it a shot. So if you want to give it a shot, I'm just saying that I don't recommend you download it for a daily driver, but if you want to give it a shot, I think you're going to be fine here for the SE. I'm not seeing a huge dip in battery, so not bad so far. But let me know what else you guys would like to see on iOS 11 for the iPhone SE. And that was my review. If you enjoyed it, click the like button for me. Subscribe to the channel for more tech videos like this. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.